massive stories to get through this afternoon, my friends. I can't afford to waste any time with the intro. We got a lot of things to unpack, so I hope you guys are ready for today's reports. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions. Let's try and get 2k likes, my friends, and let's get straight into things. For the first story, we have some updates around Deivid Washington. Could Washington finally be set for a loan move this month? Well, currently he's with the Brazil under-20 squad for the South American Championships. Kendrick Pass will be performing there, so of course I'll be discussing what goes down. But anyway, Brazil journalist in Casa Grande reveals that his agent has been holding talks with us to find a move for his client. Now, Santos, the club we originally bought Washington for around 60 million euros, they're hoping to sign him back on loan. But of course, if we accepted that, that would spell the end for our final international loan spot. So we have to be very careful with how we use things. However, 3 other unknown European clubs are also expressing interest in a player that I think is pretty interesting. Again, I always thought with this model that you sign a Washington, you keep him on the books for like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, and you wait to see, okay, is he good enough to come back to the squad, or do you sell him? But it really feels like we have no time or patience for anyone. You can go out that door the first moment you even come in, and I don't know, I just think it's a shame if Washington did leave on a permanent. Maybe I'm getting too carried away because of course this is a loan move. However, I think about his long-term future here. Is there really going to be a space here? And historically at the moment, do we really care to keep these types of talents on the books for that long? That's something for you guys to think about. But I think it's quite obvious that he's too good for the under 21 level. He's got like 10 goals and 18 appearances. But for me, it's his overall game as a striker. He gives me like complete striker vibes in the sense that he can hold the ball, bring people in, run the channels, take on his opponent. He can score a variety of different goals. I think he's the type of guy where when he's like in his mid-20s, you could see a really promising striker in the future. And if some guys argue that maybe they see more in Washington compared to Q, listen, I wouldn't say you're an idiot for having that opinion. So that's the Washington update out the way. And now, my friends, I want to discuss one of the breaking stories this afternoon, because are we set to sign another wonder kid midfield player this January? It's looking very likely at the moment. And I'm really annoyed that I did not discuss this player like a week or 2 ago when I was first reading these reports in Italy. But I thought to myself, you know what, sometimes I can't report everything if there's not like enough legs behind the story. But I should have trusted my instincts at the time. But fast forward 2 weeks, my friends, we have some concrete information courtesy of the Marzio and other Italian outlets. But it seems like we are ready to replace Casadei with Hellas Verona midfield player in belahayne. Now, this is a very surprising story, or maybe not so surprising, because actually we've scouted this player for over 1 year. And we sent scouts in attendance, Marseille scouts and other clubs from scouts across Europe have also been heavily watching the player, who has really exploded to life with Hellas Verona. Now, they only signed him from Lens last year, at the beginning of last year, I mean. And since then, he's been the undisputed, first name on the sheet for the start of the season. And to be honest with you, I can kind of understand why a lot of clubs would be paying attention around this kid. Now, if I was to give you guys a comparison, I might be saying this guy is the VERRATTI regen. If I was being cynical, I could say he's like a Billy Gilmore clone by mentioning these 2 players, because belahayne is like 5'6", he's tiny. But like VERRATTI, this guy is extremely confident in his technical game. He's extremely confident in receiving in tight angles and spaces. He trusts his footwork. The stats show every game at least 2 dribbles per game. And you know what? If there was like one slight weakness that I see in our midfield, is the fact that we don't have that strong ball carrier or that dribbling specialist. I think at times, if you're going to look to play vertically, you need someone in these type of central areas that can kind of create the space by being a man, or just receiving in really irregular tight angles, and having a player who trusts himself, receive, beat his man, and then play forward. On top of that, another interesting stat is that he ranks very high in Serie A for dribblers tackled, and that tells you something about how he is off the ball. Now, height can be helpful, but I've always thought to myself, if a small player has the right physiology, like a bit of stockiness, similar to like an N'Golo Kante, they can actually be a bit of a powerful weapon. Look at guys like him, Makelele, Lassana Diarra, players like that, where they're able to win certain tackles that your regular 6-foot guy isn't able to without giving away a foul. That mixture of lower center of gravity, short legs, reduces the space for tackling distance. These guys, if they have the right physiology, they can be like surprise weapons to have in your team. And it's no surprise because belahayne absolutely idolizes N'Golo Kante. You guys reading his quotes on screen, but as he says, the number 6 is that of a midfielder. In my opinion, it represents solid players who scratch the ball away from opponents, but also know how to keep it. For me, it represents my style of play. My role model, who sets an example both on and off the pitch, is N'Golo Kante. I really like his team spirit. Even off the pitch, he is always calm. But when he goes on the pitch, he is aggressive. He has been my example since I was a kid. And I think that's a great role model to have because belahayne is very aggressive with his duties off the ball and doesn't shy away from things physically. Now, I get what some of you guys are saying, and I'm kind of in that same boat too. Some experience, man. Will that necessarily hurt us? I don't think so, to be honest with you. I feel like we could add some of that, but realistically, unless we can find experienced short-term options, it's not going to happen. And even like efforts for Douglas Luiz, so we've had conversations with Juventus. Juventus said no unless you're buying him on a permanent deal or unless there is an obligation to buy in this loan deal. So it's kind of like whittling down the options that are available in the market, especially knowing that Andre Santos and Ugo Chukwu are likely remaining at Strasbourg and Southampton, which I'm disappointed by as a fan, but in the long term, maybe it makes sense for these guys to keep on playing consistently and then come back next season ready. I can understand that, and I'm not actually opposed against the directors for thinking about what's best for these guys' career at this stage. If anything though, I would say that belahayne is a much more suited profile to play in the pivot and deeper compared to Casadei, who, he has like natural box-to-box instincts and he's not been able to utilize them, even though he probably could have quite a lot. But, Maresca decided against that. And to be fair, I don't think Maresca's been particularly helpful for Casadei's career, at Leicester and currently with us. So essentially, it's Casadei out for 50 million, replaced by an emerging talent, an exciting one. He's got some good attributes to his game. However, it does continue the potential FC, opportunity FC. I'm going to call us Sushi FC because we love rawness. We love a raw meal. So yeah, my friends, how do you guys feel about this talent? Where do you fall on this matter? Let us know below. Now, don't be going nowhere because we have another big update involving Garnacho. Now, I'm going to tell you guys some things I've been hearing over the last 2 days straight. Number one, we spent the entire week persuading Garnacho to pick us over Napoli. We've told him why we are the best club for his career right now. And this is why you've read reports around Garnacho preferring to remain in the Premier League, which ideally, I think most players prefer to remain in, to keep things real with you. However, it does seem like Napoli now have kind of unofficially given up. They're turning their attentions now to Adeyemi from Napoli, and Garnacho is very much wanting to sign for us. And this is key because essentially we aren't going to make any official offers for Garnacho until we got the player's 110% blessing. So there you have it, my friends, with reports today from Romano revealing that we are now ready to approach Manchester United. Garnacho has essentially said yes to Chelsea Football Club. We're kind of cheekily hoping that we can maybe include players in this deal, like in exchange or potentially in separate deals. And the 4 players I've heard are Ben Chilwell, Joao Felix, Disasi, and Carney Chukwuemeka as well. Now, in an ideal world, we pay the ridiculous money, 60 mil euros, around 50 million for Garnacho. But then Man United are giving us like an additional 30 or 40 by signing our players in response to that. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at guys like Felix, who now I'm a bit worried for, because if Garnacho comes in, realistically, he's going to be taking his squad minutes. Because Felix, outside of playing as Palmer's understudy, where is his moments and opportunities in the team really? We ain't really seen that. But on one hand, if he went to United and they got Dorgu playing wing back, you know, he's inside the field a bit more. I could see it making sense, but let's not get into that right now. Regardless, you know, we spent a lot of time assessing his personality because there's been a bit of controversy surrounding Garnacho, you know, falling out with managers, accusations that he's leaking confidential stuff behind the scenes in United's locker room, and also worries about his younger brother, who's a bit of a character, a bit flashy, etc, etc. But at the same time, man, like, come on, like, taking the actions of like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old that seriously, you know what I mean? That would be a bit too insecure, in my opinion. Right now, my friends, we wait to see if we find an agreement with Manchester United, because as we've seen with Osimhen and other players, you can get the verbals, you can get the yes, the okay, but if you can't find the agreement, nothing's going to happen. With Napoli not finding an agreement with Manchester United, there's an opening for us now. It's going to have to be around the ball mark that Manchester United want. What's interesting is that United feel like we're probably the only club right now that would meet their asking price, which kind of tells you quite a lot. To give my opinions on this, man, you know what? It's a shame that we can't wait for summer, where more opportunities open up. Are we going for Garnacho because we've already got the no from guys like Jamie Bino-Gittins and other candidates already? That could be the reason behind why we're going all in on Alejandro Garnacho right now. Fair enough. It's a shame though, and I don't know, I always just thought optimistically, if we can secure CO, bigger options open up in the summer window. Is it not worth being patient for? I don't know, man, but to speak about Garnacho, listen, his mentality is probably the biggest strength in him. Even though it can be a flaw at times, you need to have that strength of resolve, personality, and confidence in yourself to play the way he plays. You know, he's a high volume merchant. Let's keep things real, where he'll do this action like 10 times. It will come off like 2 times. But he doesn't lose confidence in himself to keep on trying, even when he's messed up the dribble, even when he's been in the right position but not taking his chance. And having this at 20 years old, it's a bit of a blessing in disguise, to keep things real. Mudryk was also a high volume player. I kept saying this all the time when we signed him from Shakhtar. However, he showed that he didn't have the confidence and mentality to really, you know, do justice by his potential, and I think that's why the club now are giving up on Mykhailo Mudryk. But even then, I feel like Garnacho has good strengths. I think his box presence is very good, and it tells me that as he gets older, he could be a real match winner in the future. But then equally at the same time, you know, is he that 1v1 specialist that I want? I really feel like it's so key for the big clubs to have that guy who's a consistent threat with his dribbles, and that's something that Garnacho just doesn't have. Can it be fine-tuned? Can Maresca maybe find ways to simplify his game? Because I think when Garnacho doesn't think too much, actually he does a bit better compared to when he has too much time to think about what to do. We'll see. Listen, I'm not going to say I'm excited for this move. I'm not, to be honest with you. And I felt like there were other guys I'd be keeping my eyes out for. But it seems like the club now are going all in to secure Garnacho before this window ends. So my friends, I think we have to brace for the inevitable right now. How do you feel? Share your thoughts and opinions. And don't go nowhere, because we have another big story to get through. And currently, Spanish reports suggest that Real Madrid are really making an offensive now for Enzo Fernandez. And they're looking to cash in on Tchouameni, a player that has found utility playing as a centre-back, but this season hasn't been shining the same way. Wouldn't say a liability, but isn't really taking games by the scruff of its neck. Looks a bit lost at times. I think there's a lot of reasons behind why, and I'm going to discuss some of them. But at the moment, Madrid are open to selling Tchouameni. Some rumours suggest offers of around 60 mil euros to 70 mil euros could be enough to do business. And if they do that, they're looking at 2 guys, Rodri and Enzo Fernandez. And for me, it makes a lot of sense, because with Modric now being the sub player that he is right now, and with the loss of Toni Kroos, one of the generation's best deep line playmakers, Madrid have done well in using 2 8s with a holding midfield player behind, but they lack that player who controls the game, who can provide some creativity, who can provide that pre-assist moment. And to be honest with you, Enzo Fernandez would be the perfect candidate for Real Madrid, who offers that type of balance. And I also think with his like relationist style play, he would probably combine very well if he has world-class quality around him, like flipping Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. Now, the report mentions that Madrid would prefer to do a player exchange offer only. No money involved. It would be a straight swap between Enzo and Tchouameni, and for me, I say absolutely not, and there's no way the club would accept that. But interesting conversations. Would we benefit from a profile like Tchouameni? You know what? Maybe, potentially, being that holding guy, he could unlock Caicedo to play more box-to-box and play further forwards, because we know Moises has that kind of potential in his game. For me, though, Tchouameni is like a real classical holding mids, and if you want someone to marshal and be that enforcer in front of your back line, protect the spaces in behind the fullbacks, win his physical battles, add that aggression, but move the ball on quickly, and also add his ability to, listen, he does bits for the French national team squad, so this isn't a dud. This isn't someone who's fallen off right now. I think he's just having a bit of a difficult moment because, you know, it does feel like he's lost in Madrid's midfield because they have so many players who are dynamic, who are eights, you know, Valverde, Bellingham, who want to get forward. It does feel like Tchouameni's kind of lost himself a little bit, but I don't know, would Madrid necessarily be like, you know what, get out? Because I remember Casemiro also had certain difficulties and needed a bit more time to really assert himself at Madrid before he became like one of the best holding mids of our generation. In that sense, I guess it's no surprise why Liverpool have actually expressed interest if Tchouameni is 100% available in the market, because he would make a lot of sense and would give them more license to push their fullbacks further up the field. Let's see what happens there. But in terms of Enzo, Real Madrid, listen, recently, sadly, we've been a feeder club for Madrid. I think every club in the world is a feeder club for Real Madrid. And I have this fear that if we missed out on CL football again, is Enzo going to have that patience when Madrid are knocking on that door, when there's an opportunity to make something happen in the summer, whilst knowing that, you know what, this whole project that was sold to me doesn't really seem to be projecting much right now. I don't think I can afford to say no to Real Madrid. I mean, I know what I'm saying is a bit mad, but this rumor has been something that's been about now for a while, and I feel like I'm learning my mistakes and not covering particular stories where they started out really small and now they've become big stories in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised if Enzo Fernandez could be the big marquee guy Madrid decide to go for, because they need that Crucic type of creative midfield profile in their team now. I'm sure this won't be the first time I discuss this, but my friends, that's all the big stories today. If more stories drop, make sure you have the notification buttons on for BlueLionsTV. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button and I'll see you all soon. Cool.